Good afternoon and welcome to the third and final part of our Crowdfunding for Youth project series. My name is Sammy Morja. I'm Head of Coaching and Project Innovation here at Crowdfunder, and I'm broadcasting live today from Crowdfunder HQ, where actually the day has brightened up nicely after a bit of a grisly start this morning. And we're really lucky today to be joined by the fabulous Sadie from the Choose Life Map project, who's going to be with us throughout the session today and sharing some of her insights and her experience after successfully crowdfunding with us, actually not too long ago at all. So I'm going to start by going to you first of all, Sadie. Just if you could give us a little bit of an idea of what your project was all about.
Okay, well, yeah, it was really recent. It ended on the 27th of September. My project was called the Choose Life Map project, and it was all about raising awareness for mental health and addiction issues, which people suffer from all over. And it was Mental Health Day the other day, and there's a lot about those two issues in the news. And I did it because of personal reasons. I have a family member that suffered for many years, and I kind of connected those issues with creating a map, because yoga can help. So I talked to Catherine Hamnett. She gifted us her iconic Choose Life logo, and then I made sure everything was eco and sustainable, and that's kind of how the project came together. And then yeah, I was just really overwhelmed by the support from everybody.
Amazing, and it was definitely one that here at Crowdfunder HQ a lot of people had an eye on. We have quite a few yogis in the office, and a lot of people who instantly recognise that Choose Life kind of image, and were really interested in what you were doing, and definitely were really supportive of what you were doing. So we're going to come back to Sadie, as I said, a few times as we go through, so I'll look forward to kind of hearing a little bit more. So just to recap, first of all, as kind of where we are and where we've been. So this is the third session where we're talking about promoting and running your project. In our first session, we looked at planning, and then in the last session, we did look at actually creating the perfect project page. So if you have missed those two, if you haven't seen them yet, you can actually watch those. The links are below this video for you to catch up on those and before this one now. So today then, it's very much about promoting your project, getting off to a good start and maintaining that momentum so that you reach your target. And I will mention at this stage that there are 3 downloadable guides that you can grab from the Crowdfunder website. There'll also be a link in this video as well. And those 3 guides are actually almost about 10 pages long. They're not super long, I promise. They're not super boring. They are useful, and we get really great feedback, and you can definitely tell when we see projects coming onto the platform who's taken some time to read and have a look at the guides, because the quality is just so high, and we really see people taking some really great actions and getting some movement very quickly on their projects. So do download those. If there's one thing that you take away from this session, is that definitely have a look at those guides. So I'm going to come back to you, Sadie, now to kind of get us started in thinking about promoting your project. So what do you think is the most important thing to think about when you're promoting your project?
Well, I think everything that you just said about doing as much research as possible. There's a few things that I learned as well. I would say launch a social media campaign before going live with the project, because then we didn't do this, and I think this is a really good thing to do, because you build a buzz and then you can almost do a countdown to when the campaign launches, whereas we launched our campaign and then kind of did all the social media, so we were kind of chasing our tail at the beginning, but we caught up, so it was fine. But definitely that would have been a lot easier and less stressful to have a following first. What else? I think have a really clear timeline, so you know what needs to happen at what point. For example, like press helps promote your project, but you can't really do that until you've got something that's really happening and that people are talking about. We also created a few sample mats, and then these would kind of rotate around the yoga teachers, local yoga teachers, and also with key influencers. So we had like Sadie Frost on the mat, which was amazing, and a few other people. So that was great. So have like people that people look up to, influencers, talking about the mat, talking about the project, and also a big thing is the connection. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A big thing for us as well was, because it's a personal project, making it personal. I think I was afraid in the beginning to get on the other side of the camera and talk about it and kind of just say hello and be myself. And it was actually you guys that pushed me to do that, and that was a really important step in giving the project like that it's a genuine project, genuine reasons, and it gave it a heart, I think. So that was really important too. We also created a thing with the hands. So even though it was a yoga mat, we created the Choose Life hands. So it made it a lot easier for people to support the project and share it and talk about it by writing Choose and Life on their hands and tagging us. So that was a really, really important thing that we did.
Yeah, and I know you had a lot of people getting involved with that, some pretty big names as well as some of the people in the Crowdfunder office. So it seemed like that worked really, really well.
It was so nice to see the girls from Crowdfunder do it. Yeah, and we had a lot of people. We had Pixie Geldof and yeah, so lots. So it was really, really great.
Awesome. Fantastic. So what we're going to talk about now just for a moment is some of those fundamentals of crowdfunding. And these are almost kind of the rules, if you like, as what we know works when you start, when you're launching your project, to make sure that you get off to a rolling start. So I've got a very jazzy slide here that hopefully will make a little bit more sense in just a moment. So first up, we do recommend lining up some funding before you go live. So not waiting till you've already pressed the go live button and then suddenly thinking, right, where's my first pledge going to come from? Having a plan for that, maybe even, your first 10 pledges. We say a good amount to think about is having 10% lined up. I'm actually crowdfunding myself at the moment, and I made sure that I had 30% lined up because I'm that kind of person that wanted to make sure that I had a really good chunk in the bag before I went live, and also because it, of course, would be quite embarrassing here in the office if it didn't get off to a good start. So that was something that was really key, and actually we see that time and time again, that getting off to a good start and not letting your project sit on zero really can make a big difference. And actually it's pretty important as well when we come on to this second point, okay? And this is start from the middle and work your way out. And what we're referring to there is what we kind of think of as your network. So if you imagine that yourselves and those other people involved with the project are there in the middle, what we mean by start from the middle and work your way out is start by talking to the people closest to you first, and then go a ring wider, and then wider still, etc., etc. So there can be a little bit of a misconception that with crowdfunding you have to put it live and then immediately just tell everyone that you know about it. Whereas actually the reality is, when you slowly shift up the gears, that's a much more strategic way to do it, that you'll find your conversion rate will be a lot better. There's a couple of reasons for that. Those people who are very close to you, so working mum, dad, husband, wife, next door neighbour, best friend, the project anyway, no matter what, no matter how much support it's got, they're going to support you regardless, because that's what their motivation is. That's why they're doing it, is because they know that you're passionate about it and they want to support you. People, the fact it might only have 1 pledge or 2 pledges won't really make a difference. You'll get their support anyway. So they're kind of that inner ring. Now, as you move wider and wider, already got so far and how successful it looks does start to become more important. It is something that people will take into consideration. So if someone's never heard of the project before, they don't know who you are, they're going to take a bit more convincing than someone who lives next door to you, let's say. To make sure that you have some of those numbers on the board. You can imagine coming into a project cold, having never known anything about it before, and you see the project has 5 supporters so far and is 15% funded. Or if you come onto the project and it has 50 supporters and it's 75% funded, that second one just seems more appealing. It's just a bit more motivating. It looks popular. It looks exciting, like other people are interested. There must be something cool going on here. And it definitely looks more credible as well. So that's why it's that kind of strategic way of doing it. The final thing that we say, which is definitely a key to strategy, is being personal and being direct. And that's in all of your comms when possible. Obviously, it's completely impractical for you to be totally personal and totally direct in all of your communication. So do your best, do kind of the next best thing. So, for my mum, it's a case of picking up the phone. Same for my sister, boyfriend, I can just give him a nudge. He's normally sort of around here somewhere. And with people that I'm perhaps, less close to, I don't have their phone number, maybe, pop them a message on Facebook and maybe shoot them something over on LinkedIn or on email or whatever that channel is that you have. So putting something out to the masses is often a lot less effective in terms of that conversion than if you do go directly. Of course, when you go out to the masses, you're hitting more people at once. So it's definitely kind of those 2 different options that you have, and just thinking about what's going to be the best channel for reaching that particular person or that particular group that we already identified in your network map exercise that we did in the first session. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about now about network mapping, make sure you go back to that first session about planning. Something else which is really key to understand, and I think is almost a bit of therapy for all of us, is that crowdfunding is not constant all the way through. If you're raising funds for 28 days, don't expect every day to be a really big day and to be exactly the same as the day before. There'll be peaks and troughs. It's very natural, it's very usual, all projects have this happen. Actually makes a really clear U-shape, this graph, looking at the pledges by day. But they have loads at the start, loads at the end, and it can go a bit quiet in the middle. That's really, really normal. And for us to suddenly panic and go, it's all over, I'm never going to get another pledge, it's finished, no one's interested anymore, when we hit that middle spot, is also very natural. But I promise you, do keep calm and carry on, it will come back. It's just a case of making sure that you have a plan for each of those different days. You have something going on, maybe using different channels, talking to different people. And then what you can hopefully do is what these guys have done, where they have another couple of peaks throughout that funding period. So accepting that not every day is going to be the biggest day, but what can we do to make sure we have a few peaks as we go through to keep it rolling. So on Crowdfunder, around about 3/4 of pledges come from 2 key channels, and that's email and social media. And in particular, actually, Facebook is a really big driver. I don't know if that was kind of what you saw with your project, Sadie.
Yes, it was. Yeah, especially the Facebook Lives. They were really good to do. Very personal. Fantastic. And then you just get the views. They get shared more. So yeah, I mean, I love posting the cool pictures and things, but really, like, the best thing for us was getting in front of the camera and making it personal.
Definitely, and that's the scariest thing as well. I think, and there's definitely something to be said to that. That the easy stuff isn't necessarily the stuff that works best. Sometimes we have to do things a bit different, things outside of our comfort zone, and it's in order to most of it.
It's your campaign. It's what you believe in. It's what you're passionate about. So it's just getting it. You guys did it to me, just giving me that push. So I would definitely recommend anyone else doing it, just to do it, because once you've done it, then it's easier, much easier after the first time.
Yeah, it's not that scary, I promise. So we're actually going to focus on Facebook for just a minute now and kind of look at that, and that is because it is such a great tool. I think one of the reasons why Facebook works so well is potentially because it's kind of quite a few tools rolled into one, because it's not just a platform for you to message out to a giant audience like, for example, Twitter. You also have direct messaging. You also have the opportunity to set up a page.
Yeah.
You can do adverts, you can do events, you can join groups. There's so many different things that you can do. That actually, I think because it's kind of this multi-sided tool, that's why it can work quite well, is because there's a lot you can do with it. So thinking about posts first of all then, so this is kind of almost like Facebook basics, and of course, you know, we've picked out 5 things here that make a great post, but there's lots of other things. This could have been, you know, could have been 100 things that make a great post, but this is stuff which we think is really essential for, you know, pretty much any project. First, the first rule of crowdfunding is that you don't always have to talk about crowdfunding. So other things that are happening in your world and with your project, with your organisation, are just as interesting and important as the fact that you're crowdfunding. So whether that's talking about a specific reward, or someone who really loves what you're doing, or a testimonial, or some impact that your project has had, all of those little things make really great content. So you don't need to be saying, please support our project, we're crowdfunding, in every single post. I would say, you know, avoid that as much as possible. Definitely focus on the more interesting stuff. Bold and beautiful images work really well. I think in 2017, you can't really be posting with plain text. People have just come to expect more. So things that are striking, things that stand out, whether that's something with, you know, strong contrasting black and white, or something with a really bold colour, whatever it is that kind of works for your project, something that looks good and stands out is really what we're looking for with those posts. And as Sadie mentioned just a moment ago, video rocks. It really does. Particularly, we've seen that shift even in, you know, the last few months, or, you know, to the year, in that shift in video content on things like Facebook. It really is king when we're kind of thinking about the content that people see in their newsfeed. So Facebook Lives are really great, and again, Facebook does sort of prioritise them in feeds. We're always trying to get in people's feeds. And just having some moving image, so you can even just cut out, let's say, 10 seconds or, you know, just a few seconds from your main Crowdfunder video and post that on social media as a bit of a snippet or a teaser. And then you've got, you know, that great content kind of to keep going. Do make sure you're using subtitles. If you've got video with speaking, if at all possible. There's something that was out, I think, just last week, which has some data on how many people actually watch videos on Facebook with the sound off. And actually, it's most people, believe it or not. So making sure that it's not just kind of relying on people being able to hear your video. Include a call to action if you can, and if it's relevant and appropriate with your post. So what we mean by a call to action is asking someone to do something. So, you know, have a look at our page, or join us in making this happen, or support this cause, or show that you care, whatever it is, kind of giving people that kind of kick, that this is what they need to do next. And do mix it up. And I think that's, you know, kind of what we've been saying with the rest of this, is that it's all about making sure you're doing different things on different days that really target different audiences and focus on different things. Too much of any one thing is going to become dull. So do mix it up, I think, is the key word there. So thinking about creating a Facebook page, it's absolutely something I would recommend doing for everyone who's going to be crowdfunding. If you haven't got one already, it's really free, it's really quick and easy, it doesn't cost you anything to do, and the features that you can actually do with a Facebook page are very different from what you can do with your own personal Facebook. So if you haven't kind of dipped your toe in that world yet, it's a good time to sort of get started as soon as possible before launching. Just highlighting a couple of things that you can do, for example, photo carousels, again, can work really well because they look different to just having kind of a grid or just one image on people's feeds. So you can include a number of images, and actually that can link straight through to your crowdfunding page. Similarly, it gives you an option to add events, just like you can do as an individual, but linking those to your page specifically on Facebook, you can actually focus people on dates around launching, or when it's closing, or if you're going to be doing any interviews or any cool events throughout the rest of the period. And what, of course, that does is then actually sends a notification to everyone who likes your page. You can invite them all to the event, and again, they get that nice little red number in the top corner, which is what we always want, is to be drawing people's attention in. Facebook boosting is a pretty cheap and low-risk way of dipping a toe in the world of advertising, if it's not something you've done before. You'll see this little blue box pop up if you have a Facebook page and you put a post out. I've just done some screenshots from a page that I manage for a jewellery brand called Catch the Sunrise. So you put, and it will ask you who you want to target. So you can choose people who already like your page, or those people and their friends, or you can pick based on demographics. So perhaps where they are, their age, their gender, their interests as well. And you can play around with that and try boosting to a few different audiences and see what works. And you actually get to pick the budget, which is great. So you know exactly what it's going to cost you straight away. So the minimum amount you can boost a post for is for £1. And the minimum amount of time is for 1 day. So £1, 1 day, that's kind of your easy way of giving Facebook boosting a go. So you set that budget, how many days you want to run it for, how much you want to spend. And actually Facebook are really great at giving you insight and feedback and analytics on how many people have been reached, how many people have engaged, and then you can track that back to what that actually meant in terms of pledges. So these are all great ways of sort of getting people into your world and hearing about what you're doing. So if you are able to get people to like one of your posts, let's say through a Facebook boost or anything like that, what you'll actually see when you look at that post is the list of all the people, their names at the bottom there, of all the people who have liked your post or engaged with or reacted to it, as they now have. If you click that list of names, you'll see this window on the right open up, and this will show you all the people who've liked it and whether they already like your page or not. So they may like your post, but they may not like your page. Now, you can then click that magical invite button and get them, hopefully, to actually liking your page as well. Why should we bother? Why is that important? Because that then means that potentially they're kind of in your world now, and they're going to see more things that you're going to be putting out, which is, of course, what we always want to be doing. So I think that's quite enough about Facebook, and I can hear that my voice is about to go as well. So moving away from Facebook and social media, Sadie, can you tell us a little bit about what other channels outside of social media you use to spread the word?
Yeah, because obviously all those things you just mentioned, that's exactly what we used. That was all really helpful, and the Facebook boosts especially, because they reached a much wider audience. But other channels, other than social media, the big one is your friends, your circles. You know, we all have a lot of friends on Facebook and acquaintances, and it's kind of reaching out to them. I reconnected with a lot of old friends that I'd lost touch with. So that was really nice. And I think the big thing is don't feel pushy. I straight away start to feel like I'm bothering people, but I think it's the one time it's a massive deal. It's your campaign. So don't be afraid of just kind of being like, oh, have you done it yet? Because people just forget sometimes. They'll think, yes, I'm going to do it. And then they drift. So it's good to remind your friends and family and your world. And the other thing was, for us, word of mouth. To get that to happen was to have a rotating mat going around the yoga teachers in Manchester. And so each class, I mean, that's like 10, 15, 20 people. So it's kind of small in the crowdfunder campaign world, but that's each teacher having a mat, told their class, then they tell other people. So word of mouth really helps too. So we found a way in for that. Yeah, that's kind of it. Just reminding people as well when the campaign's coming to an end. That's a big one, because because ours did have that kind of dip in the middle, and that's when you line everything up for that final massive push.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing is press. So once you've started to get a buzz going, that's when you can contact local press, bloggers, and yeah, that was good too. Both.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there when you were talking about feeling a bit pushy and being a bit nervous about that, and actually worrying that am I ramming this down people's throats? Am I going to lose all my friends doing this? And actually, being on the other side of it, when you have got friends who are crowdfunding, people are really excited about what you're doing, and they are really keen to hear about it, and they really just want to kind of share that moment with you. And people are very appreciative that you've taken the time to actually get in touch with them.
Yeah, I think that's
directly.
Like really personal messages, calls, emails, but it's to that person. It's not like a thing that's just gone out to everybody, which we also did that as well. But what was I going to say about Facebook? Yeah, it just ended up on my personal page a lot. And the other thing, like you said before, not to just hammer the same thing. Please support us. Find other things to talk about that are kind of connected to the project, but not so directly like pledge. Just so that's where I did a few little interviews with other people as well on the Facebook Live.
Yeah, definitely. And people are so busy. I can't even count the amount of notifications that I've had on my phone this morning. I'm sure everyone else is the same.
Yeah.
That it sometimes feels, as a project owner, that you're, barraging people because you've sent them one or two messages. I can promise you, it's not at the top of their mind. They've got lots of other things on in their life.
Definitely don't take that to heart when you don't hear from people, or if people aren't pledging. Yeah, but then that's where you said before, build up, get that % before you even start. I mean, that's something that we would definitely do if we crowdfund again.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Sadie's pointed out, there's lots of things that you can do. I've highlighted a couple on this page here, but there's lots more advice on how to use some of the offline things and the other bits and bobs in that guide that I mentioned earlier. So particularly if your project is very local to a specific place, it can be a really good option to make sure that you're kind of going out into the world. Because of course crowdfunding actually happens in the real world as well, and kind of talking to people and connecting with them. So do keep an eye on your Crowdfunder Live dashboard as well. This will contain an absolute treasure trove of really useful information that basically tells you what's going on with your project, what's happening. So one of the ones which I always look at first of all is that third blue square along, which is the pledge conversion rate. And that basically tells you from the people who are actually arriving on your Crowdfunder page, how many of them or what percentage of them are actually going on to make a pledge. Now, on average, this is around about 5%. So if you think, we're dropping below 5%, or, actually we're flying way above that, that gives you a bit of an idea of the benchmark and to kind of for you to keep an eye on. And you can see things like referrals and things like that in there, which I think are really, really useful. So this example that I've grabbed here, getting, sort of almost 3/4 of their pledges all from Facebook. So what they can do then is look at that and look at what kind of posts they're putting out on Facebook on what days, and then what days were the pledges coming in, and trying to sort of marry that up and thinking, actually, what's working? What was the one that really worked well for us? And kind of doing more of that, and doing less of the stuff, that isn't really working. So I am sort of appreciative of the fact that not everyone lives and breathes crowdfunding like I do. They do have other things in their lives. So be realistic about what time you have. If you only have a couple of hours on the day to actually spend pushing your project, then spend it where it's going to really make that impact. Don't waste time, doing sort of the nice to have things that you think actually it's not really potentially going to drive very much. Really focus on, what impact can I make today? Who can I talk to? Who can I get excited and interested in the project? Who do I need to follow up with? And just keeping an eye on that data there, I think, is really, really key. So we're going to whip back around to something that we mentioned in our very first webinar, which was all about the extra funding that we have on Crowdfunder. So we have a couple of funds specifically for youth projects, as well as some funds around the country that are relevant for lots of different types of projects, including youth projects. I'm just going to highlight a couple here. So we do have the Crowdfund Dorset Fund, where you can get up to £10,000 for youth projects in Dorset. And we do have the Brums Smiles Community Fund, which is now actually live, where again you can get up to £10,000 for projects that are going to support the health and well-being of young people in Birmingham. So in order to apply for any of these funds, you need to add your project on Crowdfunder. You go onto your dashboard, you'll see that little box pop up there. Click Tell Me More, and that will take you through to the fund page. There you'll see the application form, and you'll also see that full eligibility criteria as well. Do check that criteria before applying for the funds. As I say, there's lots of them, lots of really great funds. And try and keep that criteria in mind when you're filling out your application, and make sure that you're answering the questions as fully as you can, so you're really doing your project justice on that application. So, Sadie, we're going to come back to you one last time for the big question. What is your one top piece of advice for someone who's about to launch on Crowdfunder?
I think my top piece of advice would be to launch all the social media before you launch the Crowdfunder campaign. Get a buzz going, get a following, get people talking about it, and then do a countdown to the launch date, and then it means you start with the ball rolling. So that's definitely my top tip.
I think that's great. Really good advice. Thanks for that. So for those of you who are feeling very enthused and very inspired by what Sadie's achieved, what can you do next? So pick a launch date. I think that's quite a useful thing to do to kind of get yourself moving and going from kind of, oh, I'd like to crowdfund one day, to going, actually, I'm going to crowdfund. So pick a date that works for you and try and work to that. So build a plan around that date. It helps to kind of, again, give you a little bit of a kick in saying, you know, if we want to go live on, you know, the 10th of November, then we need to make sure our socials are up and running by, you know, 10th of October. Right, well, that was a couple of days ago, so you better get going. And it helps you to kind of work on that timeline when you're building that plan. Do have a look at getting your email address book together. It is a really good tool, particularly in the early stages of going out to people that you know directly. If you're anything like me and you have multiple accounts and they're all over the place, it's quite useful to actually go through and maybe clean some of those out and have a go at maybe pulling out all of those addresses into one sort of centralized list. So if you have things like mailing lists for an organization, again, kind of checking that you know where that is and that you can access it. And setting up a Facebook page. I think we've, you know, hammered this one home quite well. It's definitely worth it. It's a really good tool, and it's something that is going to be so useful, not only for your crowdfund, but in sort of the ongoing future of your project, to kind of keep people involved in what you're doing. So if you've had any questions as we've been going along about anything that we've touched on, or anything that we haven't perhaps focused on so much in this session, you can reach us on email. We are support@crowdfunder.co.uk, and we'll be more than happy to hear from you. I promise we are real humans and we're quite friendly and lovely. And the kind of last thing there is to say is best of luck in launching your projects and following in Sadie's footsteps and really making a go of actually making your idea happen. I think we're really privileged at Crowdfunder to see so many inspirational people who actually have the drive to actually go out there and do that, and to actually make things happen. And we're really thankful to be able to work with you guys. So thanks so much for joining us again, Sadie. It really was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for all your help as well. Crowdfunder have literally been amazing. The support is incredible. So I just second what you just said about people reaching out if they need help.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Best of luck, everyone, with your own campaigns. Thanks. Bye.